The system you live in was never designed to make you rich. In fact, governments and central banks around the world use financial tricks every single day that quietly drain your wealth while making you feel like you're doing just fine. Think about it. Why does everything get more expensive every year? Why do you pay tax on your income, tax when you spend, and tax again when you die? Why do schools teach you calculus but never teach you how money really works? Today, I'm exposing the 5 biggest financial tricks governments use to keep you broke, and once you see them, you'll never look at money the same way again. Trick number 1, hidden inflation. The silent wealth erosion. Inflation is one of the most insidious tricks in the government playbook. You see, inflation isn't just about rising prices. Governments actually inflate the money supply by printing more money without you ever really noticing. They tell you inflation is at 3% or 4% annually, but the truth is the real inflation rate is often much higher. When the government prints more money, it reduces the value of your hard-earned cash. That means even if your salary increases, the purchasing power of that salary is actually declining. The more money printed, the more it costs you to live. And here's the kicker. Wages often don't keep up with inflation. Your paycheck doesn't rise as quickly as the cost of living, leaving you in a constant struggle just to make ends meet. 2. The tax trap, the hidden tax you're paying every day. Next, let's talk about taxes, specifically the hidden tax that most people aren't aware of. Did you know that every time you buy something, you're paying a tax, whether you know it or not? That's right, sales tax, but there's more. Have you ever noticed how your pay stub seems to shrink every time you get paid? That's because governments levy taxes at multiple levels, federal, state, and local, without you ever getting a clear picture of the total amount. It's not just your paycheck either. Taxes are built into the price of everything: gas, food, and even online purchases. They don't ask your permission to take your money, and they don't care if you're struggling. The average person often underestimates how much they pay in taxes. Sometimes up to 50% of their income goes straight into the government's pocket when you factor in all the hidden taxes in your everyday purchases. 3. Centralized control, the manipulation of interest rates. The third trick is all about interest rates, how governments and central banks control them to their advantage. Interest rates aren't just numbers, they're tools. By manipulating these rates, governments and central banks control the flow of money in and out of the economy. When interest rates are low, borrowing becomes cheap and people start taking out loans like crazy. This fuels the economy, but here's the catch. When the government eventually raises interest rates to slow down inflation, you're left holding the bag. Your credit card debt, mortgage, and loans all become more expensive. And because the central bank controls the money supply, you have little control over your financial situation. They essentially trap you into debt. This boom and bust cycle forces you into perpetual debt and prevents you from building wealth, forcing you to rely on credit to cover your expenses. 4. The financialization of everything. The rich get richer. Trick number 4 is the financialization of everything, how financial markets and policies make the rich richer and the rest of us struggle. You might think you're playing the same game as the wealthy, but the rules are different. While you're encouraged to invest in the stock market or other financial instruments, the wealthy have access to insider opportunities that most of us don't. Government policies often benefit big corporations, hedge funds, and wealthy individuals more than the average person. Low interest rates make it easier for the rich to borrow and invest in assets that grow in value, like real estate or stocks. Meanwhile, you're stuck with stagnant wages and fewer opportunities to invest. When financial markets boom, the wealthy see returns, while the middle class often gets left behind. And if the market crashes, the poor get poorer, while the rich pick up assets on the cheap. 5. The government. Debt trap. How borrowing affects you. Last but not least, let's talk about government debt, an invisible burden that impacts your financial future. Governments borrow money constantly to fund their activities. But do you know who ends up paying for that debt? You do. Governments might print more money or borrow from international markets, But the interest on that debt gets passed down to future generations in the form of higher taxes, inflation, and reduced public services. The cycle of government borrowing leads to the inflation of the currency, which affects your savings and purchasing power. Instead of investing in infrastructure, education, or healthcare, much of the government's spending goes towards servicing this massive debt. And you, as a taxpayer, foot the bill. As the debt increases, governments may even pass laws that cut public services or raise taxes to cover the deficit. So, in the end, you're stuck with the tab for a system you didn't create. So, what can you do? First, awareness is key. The more you understand these tricks, the better prepared you'll be to navigate the financial system. Second, start taking control of your finances. Budgeting, investing, and saving are essential tools in breaking free from the cycle. The system may seem rigged, but it's not unbeatable. With the right knowledge and strategy, you can start building wealth, even when the odds are stacked against you. Thanks for watching, and remember, take control of your finances and never let anyone keep you broke.